Hello little friends, welcome back to our channel, Wisdom for Kids. I'm really glad you're here again. So far, we've learned how God created the world, made Adam and Eve, gave them a beautiful garden, and walked with them. But last time, something very sad happened. Adam and Eve sinned. They broke God's one rule. They had to leave the Garden of Eden. But God didn't stop loving them. He had a plan to bring people back to Him one day. Today's story is about their children. It's a story of two brothers, Cain and Abel. Let's see what happened next in Genesis chapter 4. Episode 4, Cain and Abel, Genesis chapter 4, verses 1-16. After Adam and Eve left the garden, they began their new life outside. Things weren't perfect anymore. There were thorns, pain, and hard work, but they remembered that God was still with them. In time, Adam and Eve had a baby boy. His name was Cain, Genesis 4-1. Later, they had another son named Abel, Genesis 4-2. Cain and Abel were very different. Cain became a farmer. He worked in the fields and grew fruits and vegetables. Abel became a shepherd. He took care of sheep. One day, both brothers brought an offering to God. Cain brought some of the crops he had grown from the ground. Abel brought the best parts of his best sheep, the firstborn of his flock, Genesis 4-3-4. God looked with favor on Abel's offering. He was pleased with it. But He did not accept Cain's offering, Genesis 4-5. Now, we might wonder why. Abel gave from his heart. He gave the very best he had. Cain gave some of his harvest, but it wasn't his best. It wasn't from his heart. God doesn't just look at what we give. He looks at why and how we give. He wants our love and trust more than anything else. When Cain saw that God accepted Abel's offering but not his, he became very angry. His face was sad. He felt jealous and hurt. But instead of talking to God about it, he let his anger grow. God saw Cain's heart, and because He loved Cain, He spoke to him. In Genesis 4-6-7, God said, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, won't you be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It wants to have you, but you must rule over it." God was warning Cain. He was saying, you still have a choice. You can do the right thing. God was giving Cain a chance to stop, think, and change. But Cain didn't listen. Instead, he invited his brother Abel to go out into the field. While they were there, Cain attacked Abel and killed him, Genesis 4-8. It was the very first time one person killed another. It was the first murder, and it was heartbreaking. God came to Cain and asked, "Where is your brother Abel?" Genesis 4-9. Cain answered, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" But God already knew what had happened. He said, "What have you done? Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Genesis 4:10. Cain had sinned not just in his heart, but with his hands. He had let anger and jealousy turn into a terrible action. And now there were consequences. God told Cain, "Now you are under a curse. The ground will no longer give you good crops. You will wander from place to place and have no home." Genesis 4:11-12. Cain cried out, "My punishment is more than I can bear. I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer, and someone might kill me." Genesis 4:13-14. But even now, after all Cain had done, God showed him mercy. God said, "No one will harm you. I will put a mark on you so that no one kills you." Genesis 4:15. And so, Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and began a new life far from his family. Genesis 4:16. It was a very sad story. Two brothers, one full of love and trust, one full of anger and jealousy. One gave his best to God, one gave in to sin. But even in the sadness, we learn something important. God always sees our hearts. He cares about what we do and why we do it. He gives us chances to choose what is right. And even when we make a terrible mistake, God still shows kindness. Today, we learned that sin grows when we let anger and jealousy stay in our heart. But God wants us to do what is right. He warns us, He helps us, He gives us a choice. If someone else is doing well, we don't need to be jealous. We can be thankful for what we have and trust that God sees us too. When you feel angry, don't hide it. Talk to God. Ask Him for help, because anger doesn't have to win. God gives us power to choose love, forgiveness, and peace. And remember, even when we mess up, God still loves us. He is full of grace. He wants to help us grow. See you next time, friends. In our next episode, we'll learn about a man who walked so closely with God that he didn't even die. Can you guess who it is? Good night and sleep tight.